Public Act 100-0640 amends the Open Meetings Act to expressly authorize public bodies to meet remotely in certain circumstances without the otherwise required quorum present at the meeting place. The new law requires that the head of the public body determine that an in-person meeting is not prudent or practical because of the disaster. So Andrew, as the meeting chair, I'll ask you to make that determination after the meeting is called to order. At least one member of the public body or the chief administrative officer or the chief legal officer must be physically present at the meeting place unless it isn't feasible because of the disaster. So I'm here at the library this evening. We should do a roll call after the meeting is called to order. All votes will be by roll call. As with all public meetings, we provide space for public comments in accordance with the law. For the purposes of this virtual meeting, we've asked for the public to submit their comments via email or voice message, and I will read them aloud at the appropriate time. The meeting will be recorded and will be available on the library's website for 30 days and will be archived in our administrative offices thereafter. Over to you, Andrew.
Wonderful. All right, I'd like to call this meeting of the Aurora Public Library District Board of Directors to order at 6:03 p.m. on October 28th, 2020. All right, the Aurora Public Library District Board of Directors finds an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent at this time because of the ongoing public health emergency, and believes it is in the library's best interest to hold a virtual meeting to perform our essential business. All right, Melinda, please call the roll.
Dee Basili.
Yes.
Jeff Butler.
Here.
Joe Philippek.
Here.
Melinda Riddick here. John Savage.
Here.
Eva Serrano.
Here.
Andrew Smith.
Here. All right, I find that a quorum exists. All right, presently, are there any changes to the agenda?
We have none.
Thank you.
You know what? I'd like to, if I may, this is Delia Basili. Right at the very end, I think it's noted that my name is is Joe's last name. If you notice that, the last page.
The last page of what, Dee?
Of our minutes.
Oh.
Because Joe made the motion, I second it, and it had my name, but also my last name, they added Philipchuk to it.
All right, when we get to the next section under approval of minutes, we'll make sure to amend them to make sure that yours and Joe's name is correct.
Yep.
Do you see that?
I do. We'll give you your own last name back, Dee. No
Oh,
problem.
thank you.
Okay, well, in that current vein, are there any other changes to the approval of minutes of the September 23rd, 2020 meeting? All right, so with the change, thank you, Dee, for bringing that to our attention. May I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the September 23rd, 2020 meeting of the Board of Directors as amended?
This is Joe, so moved.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Melinda, please call the roll.
Dee Basili.
Yes.
Jeff Butler.
Yes.
Joe Philippek.
Yes.
Melinda Riddick, yes. John Savage.
Yes.
Eva Serrano.
Yes.
Andrew Smith.
Yes. All right. Motion carries. Next, Michaela, would you please present your executive director's report?
Yes, thank you. I'm going to keep it brief tonight because we have a per capita grant requirement on the agenda, and that's going to take us a few minutes. So last month, I mentioned that we are working on a grant project with District 131. So working on that project gave us the opportunity to talk more with their staff about SORA. which is a product which gives their students easy access to our Overdrive ebook and e-audiobook collections. So we've seen significant growth in new users and checkouts since that conversation has begun. We saw 450 new users and 663 checkouts since the school year has begun. So just for contrast, we had 7 checkouts in August after school started, but before we started these conversations with them. So this is just another example about how these partnerships really amplify access to the library materials for our community. So we're really happy about how that's going. District 131 also has access to Sora and is using it, and we'll brag about, or 129, sorry, and we'll brag about them another day. We are, as promised, working on our equity, diversity, and inclusion pillar. Miriam is leading that up. She's had several meetings of a group of staff that she has pulled together, and we hope to have something to bring to you in December or January. A pillar goal with some broad objectives underneath. And then finally, we are watching case counts and positivity rates very closely here, just like everybody else. I'm sure you all know about the current mitigations on Kane and DuPage counties. They don't affect our service levels at this point, but if we move to tier 2 mitigations, which restrict in-person retail, we may choose to eliminate in-person visits and offer only drive-through and curbside service, as we did early this summer. We base our services on the guidance the state offers for retail, for offices, for public event space. There's no specific guidance for libraries, so we sort of cobble it together where the way it makes the most sense. So we really hope it doesn't come to the point where we have to, mitigate these services, but we're going to watch and keep you informed and have those conversations with you as we move forward. We're really hoping, I think, just like everybody else, that the current mitigations do the trick and we can kind of bring our positivity rate down so that we can kind of go back to what has become normal around here, around our country. So, all right, that's my report. Any questions or thoughts, anyone?
What was the name of that program? Was it Flora or Cora?
Sora with an S, S-O-R-A.
I was off on both of them. Thank you.
Michaela, in terms of the browse and go appointments and the computer lab usage, have you seen any patterns just in terms of the amount, say a month ago versus 2 weeks ago, or 2 months ago versus or has it been pretty as far as kind of consistent?
As far as I know, it's been pretty consistent. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if we started to see a decrease pretty soon anyway. I think people are modifying their behavior. And even when we had a lot of traffic, in summer, late summer especially, people with browse and go, people browsed and went. We didn't have people lingering, and we still don't really. People are doing what they need to do, and they're getting out pretty quickly.
Okay.
Michaela, I sent you a note asking about the RFP for the bookmobile. Could you make a comment about that?
Yes, thank you for that, Jeff. So we said in our RFP that we issued for a new bookmobile that we would have something to bring to you this month, and we're just not ready. But we will be ready in November. We'll have a recommendation for you then. The RFPs were enormous, and it took our staff really a long time to go through with a fine-tooth comb, and figure out what was what, and really understand what each vendor was offering. So the good news is that we had 4 great proposals. And so I think it might be a little bit of a difficult decision, but we'll have something for you next month. I think we'll also call a building and grounds committee in advance so that we can discuss it a little more in detail.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for the reminder.
All right, so I believe earlier this week we had a finance committee meeting. I think either John or Michaela, can you speak to the outcome of that?
Yeah, do we want to just hold off since all that carries to new business?
Whatever you guys want to do is fine.
Yeah, why don't we just move ahead? We can just cover it all in new business.
All right, let's do that. All right, next is public comments. Did we receive public comments this time?
We do. We have one public comment.
Okay.
So this is from the APLD Union Local 2283. Local 2283 is proud to represent the hardworking Aurora Public Library staff. Our smiling faces may be covered by masks, but we continue to welcome and provide access to library resources and services for our customers. We can all agree our community has suffered greatly due to the pandemic, and we have worked with library management to find a balance between our community's need for services and the health and safety of both library staff and customers. While library management has taken some steps to address our concerns, they are not enough. Excuse me. Eola Road Branch is a designated polling place on election day, and we anticipate high traffic. Due to the rising number of COVID cases in DuPage and Kane County, we are calling on the library board members to protect the health and safety of our members and customers by closing Eola Road Branch on November 3rd. In solidarity, the Union Board.
Okay, as to that public comment, in the Eola Road branch, the building, I should say, because it's actually not the library branch itself. The polling place is in the large meeting room, which is not library property. It's in the building, but it's not library property. The library is going to continue to take all the same precautions that it has every other day of the year. So we're still limiting, we're still asking for social distancing. We're still asking that masks be worn. We're still doing the same procedures and protocols that we have, you know, the day before, the day after, the week before, the week after. When it comes to polling, again, we're going to limit the library's capacity to what it always has been. We're not letting more people in the library just because there are more people in the building. Again, we're going to enforce our same rules that we always are. Also, the election authority, they're the ones that are going to be monitoring the social distancing, monitoring the mask being worn, line management to make sure not too many people are crowding the hallway. At this point, it is not my recommendation to simply close the Eola branch on November 3rd. I want to keep the library open. I want to have business as usual because we already have plans in place to protect the employees, to protect the patrons of the library on November 3rd. We're working with the election commission to make sure that they're monitoring the people coming in and out of the building. And yes, there's going to be more people in the building, but it is a large building and the library has its own designated area, and that's not part of the polling place. So I appreciate the comments, but I don't think it's necessary at this point to shut down the library at Eola on November 3rd.
Andrew, I'll just clarify real quick. The meeting room is actually it's library property, but it is separated from the library proper, from the main part of the library by that hallway down the center.
Is it across the hall, right?
Right.
Okay. All right. Next, we have new business. Line item number 1 is approval of the August/September bills. Do we have any questions on the bills?
Andrew, before you go there was an agenda item about the foundation update. Did we skip that, or was there none to be
Oh, I
reported?
didn't see that.
That we had a foundation update last month, I think, Jeff.
Mhm.
Am I looking at the wrong one? Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. I apologize.
Oh, it's okay. No problem.
So we did have a few questions on the bills.
Okay.
On page 2 in the first set, West Aurora School District parking lot sidewalk, $57,141. The question was, what percentage of the cost for the repaving work that was done at West Branch does this represent? And now Kathy crafted these responses, so I'm just going to read them. They're better than anything I can come up with. The total project was $232,000.65. Per the IGA, our intergovernmental agreement, we are responsible for 50% of the parking lot repaving costs. So our portion was $116,032.50 less a $1,750 credit because we paid for some cement work due to ADA cement work. So less a $10,000 payment in 2019. So this 57,141 represents 50% of our remaining costs. The balance will be paid in October 2021. The next question was about a Brick Logic repair paver sidewalk for 2,845. Where was this and what percentage of the cost? So this was Brick Logic replacing and removing chipped pavers at Aurora Road branch. They inspected the base underneath, which was degraded, and installed some commercial grade polymeric sand. So this is the whole cost, 100%. The next question is in the second set, Chicago Tribune Company classified listing $1,510. So this is for 3 legally required advertisements for our 2 RFPs for the bookmobile and for the accounting and payroll software, and also for the publication of our budget and appropriations ordinance. The budget and appropriations ordinance has to be published in its entirety, so it's quite expensive. And then we had a Olson Roofing service call and repair for $571, and this was to repair a leaking skylight at the Aurora Road branch. And those were the questions on the bills.
All right, do we have any additional questions at this time? All right, may I have a motion and a second to approve the monthly bills in the amount of $865,746.02?
Motion to approve.
Second, this is Eva Serrano.
Thank you. Melinda, please call the roll.
Dee Basile,
Yes.
Jeff Butler,
Yes.
Joe Philippek,
Yes.
Melinda Riddick, yes. John Savage,
Yes.
Eva Serrano,
Yes,
Andrew Smith.
Yes. All right, motion carries. All right, next we have discussion regarding the Kane County resolution and intergovernmental agreement. Michaela?
Okay, so last month I mentioned to you all that we applied for CARES Act funding from Kane County. They were offering grants to municipalities to help cover expenditures related to the pandemic. We were awarded what we applied for, about $15,000, and your approval of this resolution and intergovernmental agreement is required for the disbursement of these funds. So Roger drafted the resolution and reviewed the IGA for us and advises that we approve them. This is one of these things where the IGA is what it is. They tell you when you apply for the funding that you can approve this IGA and no other. So there you go.
Okay.
I move for approval.
All right. I didn't hear that last part.
I move for approval.
All right. if I
second,
can have a
second, this is Eva Serrano.
All right. Melinda, please call the roll regarding approval of the Kane County resolution and intergovernmental agreement.
Dee Basile,
Yes.
Jeff Butler,
Yes.
Joe Philippek,
Yes.
Melinda Riddick, yes. John Savage,
Yes.
Eva Serrano,
Yes,
Andrew Smith.
Yes. All right. Thank you for that. Next is the 2020-2021 levy ordinance, which is ordinance 20-2. Do you want to briefly discuss it, Michaela? I know we've discussed this in the past.
Sure. John, do you want to, or shall I?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay. So I'll just briefly tell you all that this is our first levy ordinance that will pass as a library district. It was drafted by Roger, vetted by Jamie. The ordinance is our formal request to the county for property taxes. It's the same figure of $14,721,319 that you saw in the budget and appropriations ordinance. And we file this with all 4 county clerks by the December 29th deadline.
All right. I know we've gone over this kind of at length over the last few months. I would ask for a motion and a second to approve the 2020-2021 tax levy ordinance, which is 20-2.
Motion to approve?
I'll second that. This is Dee Basili.
Thank you. Melinda, please call the roll.
Dee Basili,
Yes.
Jeff Butler,
Yes.
Joe Philippek,
Yes.
Melinda Riddick, yes. John Savage,
Yes.
Eva Serrano,
yes,
Andrew Smith.
Yes. All right, thank you. Motion carries. Next is regarding the establishment of a special reserve fund. John or Michaela?
Go ahead, Michaela. You're on a
All right.
roll.
Okay, so we already have a special reserve fund that this board established in 2011. That's the 310 fund. You see it in your board packets. Roger recommends that we set up a new one as a district and transfer funds into it just for the sake of transparency. Sometime in the next year or two, as it says in your packet, we will adopt a plan to expend money from that fund. And that'll be our space plan and capital projects plan. And that is legally required. If you're going to set up a special reserve fund, you have to have a plan to expend the money. You can't just collect taxpayer dollars and accumulate them forever with no plan to spend. So that's what this is. And questions and I should say, and for the levy ordinance too, the finance committee did discuss and recommend that you approve these.
Okay.
But Kale, I did have a question. So
Sure.
you said that we already had a reserve fund, so would you close the current one and then open this one, or will we have both?
We'll close the old one. That's a great question. So Roger suggests that we establish the special reserve this month, and then next month or in December, you guys transfer those funds out of our existing and into this new special reserve fund.
All right, and in your board packet, this is ordinance 2020-3. All right, may I have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance establishing a special reserve fund, ordinance number 2020-3?
This is Joe, so moved.
I second.
Thank you. Melinda, would you please call the roll?
Dee Basili,
Yes.
Jeff Butler,
Yes.
Joe Philippek,
Yes.
Melinda Riddick, yes. John Savage,
Yes.
Eva Serrano,
yes,
Andrew Smith.
Yes. All right, motion carries. Next, and I know this was discussed at Finance Committee specifically, is the payroll and accounting software purchase. And I think this was due in large part based on us becoming a district and separating from the city of Aurora.
Correct. So
All right.
Kathy couldn't be with us tonight, but you saw her memo in your packets. Kathy ran this whole process and it was as smooth as it could possibly have been. So we received 7 bids and we asked 3 vendors to come back for demonstrations. Based on those demonstrations, staff recommend Tyler Technologies as the vendor whose product best suits our needs. Their strong points were reporting, security, help and support, and their constant update schedule. Their product is very up to date, and you can see that they take good care of it. It's not all that common when you look at this kind of product. So all 3 of our finalists, though, were very strong. It was a difficult decision, but that's our recommendation to you, that we go forward with Tyler Technologies.
and where is Tyler Technologies located? Do we know?
That's a good question. I don't remember. Brenda, do you know?
Texas. They're Texas.
They're in Texas?
I think, well, they're in 2 different places, but yeah, Texas, I think, believe is where Tyler is.
Okay.
But we have a local rep. There's a local person here too.
We work with Tyler Technologies for our time and attendance system currently. So we transferred to them from the city system, and it was a very smooth process. They worked with us and made it nice and easy. That helps too, to know that they keep their promises as far as these migrations go.
And the annual fees will start in 2021. So we purchase it this year, then we start the annual fees next year.
Next calendar year, correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. With that recommendation, may I have a motion and a second that the board approve the purchase of payroll and accounting software?
Motion to approve?
Second, Dee Basili.
All right, Melinda, please call the roll.
Dave Basili,
Yes.
Jeff Butler,
Yes.
Joe Philippek,
Yes.
Melinda Riddick, yes, John Savage,
Yes.
Eva Serrano,
yes,
Andrew Smith.
Yes, thank you. Motion carries. Next is the per capita grant requirement that I know, Michaela, you kind of spoke to a little bit, but would you mind introducing that and going through the details?
I will. I'm going to share my screen with you. Can everybody see my screen? It should say serving our public 4.0.
Yes.
yes,
Very good. All right. So tonight, we're going to start a year-long review of serving our public 4.0 for Illinois public libraries. This review will fulfill our per capita grant requirement for the fiscal year. At every board meeting through the end of the year, a different member of the library staff and perhaps a guest board member, Joe, will review a chapter or two with you, and we'll include the chapters in your board packet so that you can always review ahead of time. And as always, happy to have questions at any point. So tonight I'm going to cover two chapters: core standards and governance and administration. So core standards, chapter 1, lays the foundation for the rest of the book. It starts by outlining national level standards and definitions. You guys know that every year we report statistics and data to the state library, and from there it goes to the Institute of Museum and Library Services, so that they can accurately compare public library data from all 9,000 of us public libraries nationwide. They developed a standard definition of what a public library is. So a public library is an entity that's established under state law to serve a community, a district, or a region, provides at least an organized collection of print and other materials, has a paid staff, has an established schedule in which those services are available to the public, has facilities to support those collections, staff, and schedule, and is supported in whole or in part by public funds. So here in Illinois, we have statewide library standards that are developed by the Illinois State Library, the Illinois Library Association, both of our state library systems, with input from public library professionals all over the state. These standards develop and refine the national standards. They're meant to augment that definition of what a library is, as well as set a baseline for what library service should look like in Illinois. Where libraries don't meet the standards, those are considered areas for improvement. And as we go through this, we may well find some areas where we don't meet a particular standard. So these standards apply to all public libraries in Illinois, from the smallest one to, that's just open a couple hours a week as one staff member, to the very largest like us. And so these standards address all of the previous things, plus they add in things like written policies, identifiable materials budget. And then finally, there are the core standards, and there are 23 of them that further enhance and refine the state and national standards. I won't go through all 23 of them right now, but those core standards include all of the above things, as well as the requirement for at least one MLS degreed librarian, a customer service focus, a written budget, a strategic plan, membership in one of Illinois' library systems, a marketing strategy, a commitment to resource sharing. So the chapters that we're going to review over the next few months talk about all those standards in more detail. The governance and administration standards go into some detail about what kind of administrative controls a library should have and how it should be governed. The governance part talks about what a library board should do. A library board should develop a strategic plan, review library policies, participate in state, local, and national decision-making to affect change that benefits libraries. Board members should participate in continuing education to support their roles and should have a set of written bylaws. The administration should submit an annual report to the state of Illinois, as well as monthly reports for the board. We should develop a trustee orientation, keep adequate records of library operations, comply with the law, maintain appropriate insurance to safeguard public property, and have a chain of command that provides a smooth transition when key staff leave their employment. I think that our library meets all the core standards. How we do some of these things will change with our legal status. We may have board members next year who have never served on board, and so the orientation we provide may be different. Board advocacy will change too, now that the city is a separate entity. So in a nutshell, those are the first 2 chapters of serving our public. Does anybody have any questions, any thoughts?
I would remind board members that this is Serving Our Public is a publication of the Illinois Library Association, and if you're so inclined, I think for just $50 small dollars, it could be yours from the ILA website that actually goes through in a little bit more detail. But honestly, it really is about it kind of reads like a checklist of things that for libraries, what are those kind of standards to at least as a baseline to achieve.
We do also have electronic copies that we could push to your packets if you choose.
That's true.
We'll we'll dole out the chapters a couple at a time, but if you want the whole thing at any given time, you let us know and we'll make that happen. Thanks, Joe.
Yep.
Hey, Michaela, one thing that I asked you about was there was I think it was the core number 23 that was talking about surveying the community, making sure we're covering the needs.
Right.
You mentioned that we did that 4 years ago or 5 years ago, and so it's about time to do it again.
We did it in 2016, that's right, to prepare for our strategic plan. And we've done small surveys since then, but nothing as comprehensive. You guys remember we outsourced that to NIU, and they did a really professional randomized survey, and it is getting to be time to do that again. It's one of those things we thought we would do this year, and then COVID. So it's hard to think about now. I don't know about you guys. I get surveys every day in my email, every day. And I have survey fatigue. I'm sick of it. And I don't know if other people feel the same way. I think right now it's sort of hard to think about how the day is going to go, let alone what the future is going to look like. So I would recommend that we delay a little bit and hope that we can see out the others. We can think about the future a little more in a few months.
And I'm not pushing to do it. I'm just,
right.
when we get to our new normal, I think it's a time to consider doing it again.
I agree. Thank you, Jeff. Jeff, I think you also asked if we have a regular policy review schedule, and we do. I keep a document that tells us the triggers when to review all of our policies, and everything changes, it seems like every week now, so we haven't done a lot of those policy reviews, but once we get back to that new normal, we'll get back on track there too.
Good. And we were lagging in policy reviews before Daisy or before you.
Yeah.
Exactly when we were doing it. So it's good that we've reviewed most of them or all of them at this point, but we need to keep it as a regular process.
That's right. We were so close to getting caught up, so close.
All right, next is the revenue update. Michaela or John?
I can tell you guys, I think this did not make your packet.
Go ahead, Michaela.
I didn't see that.
All right, so let me share this with you too. All right, so this is an update of what you guys have seen before. This is from Jamie. So if you look in the very far right-hand corner, you'll see that our collections are at 98% of what we were expecting, which is amazing. If you think about where we thought we might be this time this year, it's incredible. So we were curious about the counties that had collected more than 100%. Yeah. That's not too usual, but Jamie says that sometimes people, if they pay late, there is, there's an interest payment sometimes that's due. Sometimes people pay for previous years and it gets reported in this collection. Later on, the counties will do their accounting and put it to the right year, but for now, it just shows up in our account. So this is where we're at, and Kathy believes that we will collect the rest as it'll just dribble in as the year progresses. She says that's what usually happens. But you can see too, if you look at 2019, we're way ahead of where we were at this time last year, which I can't account for. I don't know the reason for that. So.
Hey, Michaela, I know we talked a little bit about this. I don't know if you can may not be ready to get those numbers, but I'd be curious to see, how much of the tax coming towards us is from new assessed valuation from development in the community.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I can see what we can find out about that. Thanks for that reminder, John.
Yeah, it's I think it kind of far exceeded what our projections were. It was pretty low initially. We didn't know what was going to happen. We thought we had a good idea for June tax installment, but we were concerned about the September tax installment. So good to know what we've collected this year. So that's excellent.
We'll see
All right.
Next year.
Next is the approval of minutes of the September 23rd, 2020 executive session.
I'll just say here that as long as there's no discussion of the minutes, we can approve them, we can approve them without going into executive session. If you need to discuss, then we should go into executive session or defer them until our next meeting.
I move that we approve.
Second, this is Jeff.
All right, thank you. For Melinda, please call the roll for the approval of the minutes of the 23rd, 2020 executive session meeting of the Board of Directors.
Dee Basili,
Yes.
Jeff Butler,
Yes.
Joe Philippette,
Yes.
Melinda Riddick, yes. John Savage,
Yes.
Eva Serrano,
Yes.
Andrew Smith.
Yes, thank you. Motion carries. At this point, there being no further business before the board, may I have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting at 6:40 p.m.
So move Dee Basili.
This is Joe. I'll second.
Thank you. And Melinda, please call the final roll.
Dee Basili,
Yes.
Jeff Butler,
Yes.
Joe Philippette,
Yes.
Melinda Riddick, yes. John Savage,
Yes.
Eva Serrano,
Yes.
Andrew Smith.
Yes, thank you. Motion carries. We are officially adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good
Good night.
evening.
All right.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Bye-bye.